In less than 60 days, I released my first book, The Multifamily Advantage, breaking free from the single family trap to scale into early retirement. And the title is crisp. It sounds wonderful. It sounds exciting and inspiring. Oh my God, I can stop working. Oh my God, I can have all of this money. And a different Deandra would just lean on that. Right? She would talk only about the positives of owning multifamily. Oh man, Deandra, you get so many checks. Oh, Deandra, the tax benefits. Oh, Deandra, the competition for these kind of properties. And that's nice. I'm sure that Deandra is going to do really well with her sales. But this Deandra, unfortunately, needs you to know that she's made some mistakes. She needs you to know that not everything is as peachy keen as it seems. That if I were to go back, I would do things differently. This book is not my original strategy. That original strategy was bad. This book has developed over time because I wasn't doing everything by the book. I was letting my emotions sometimes lead decisions. I wasn't filing my taxes on time. Things weren't always so good. And I wrote this book to help you skip over the lessons I had to learn in real time. So this video is just a little insight into the things I'd change if I could go back to 2015. If I could go back to 2013, when I tried to buy my very first house. This is mistakes I've made trying to buy multifamily properties. The first mistake, and I'm ashamed to even say it, I would not buy a primary residence with a man who wasn't my husband. I know. I was in love. What could I say? I thought things would get better. I thought, well, this seems like less of a commitment than marriage. This is only 30 years, and marriage is forever. I thought maybe we could test the waters with my livelihood and financial security. But I wouldn't do it again. And I urge you to not do it either. And I will also add, the reason isn't just because we could have broken up. The reason isn't just because the relationship had ended. The reason I'm saying to not do this is because a primary residence is where I lay my head. This is not just a business. This is my home, right? And what we hadn't done, because we were so in love, is that we hadn't thought about the outs that come with a situation turning sour. When I think about investing with partners now, we have lawyers involved. We have operating agreements. It's often our businesses making agreements, not even the individual people. We have all of these protections in place because we know markets change, relationships stall, businesses fluctuate, and you want to think about these scenarios before you're in them. But when you're in love, when you ain't been to premarital counseling, you let your heart make these decisions. And if I had let that decision go through, or better yet, had the lender approve the loan, I could be very upside down right now because I had not taken the time before I thought about scaling my portfolio, buy more properties, to really think through the long-term effects if something went sour. The second mistake I made trying to buy multifamily properties is that I did not apply for any down payment assistance programs. If you go to other playlists on this particular channel, you will see down payment assistance programs in so many different states. The goal is to have all 50 states available by the end of 2025. I'm doing all of this extra work because of how severe my regret is for myself. I left tens of thousands of dollars on the table that I could have used to buy my duplex, to buy the quad, to buy that single family with the ADU in the backyard, because I did not apply for assistance I qualified for. Can you imagine that? Tens of thousands of dollars. And some of the programs only required me to live there 3 years, 5 years. I talk a lot about how long it took me to save my down payment money for my first property. It took me 18 months after getting denied for that property with that partner. It took me 18 months to build up my credit to a spot where I could qualify for a home, to save up enough so I could put down on a home. And there were programs in that same neighborhood, in that same town, which would have helped me buy that property 18 months sooner. If you are going to buy a multifamily property as a primary residence, and you do not take the time to see if you qualify for any down payment assistance programs in your area, shame on you. Buying multifamily properties doesn't just benefit you. It also benefits your community. That's why they're giving you the money to do so. They want you to stay in this area. They want you to revitalize the neighborhood, and they could be the county. They could be the state. They could be local nonprofits. They want landlords like you to keep these properties locally owned and locally lived in. And you are resisting that because you won't do a Google search? Because you won't quickly type it into YouTube search bar? The money I left on the table had the ability to change not only my life, but the neighbors around me. I don't want you to make the same mistake I did. Number 3, I should have hired a CPA earlier. I know that I am a proud graduate of YouTube University. When I have a question, the first thing I do is I go to that search engine and I say, tell me, whoever has made a video prior to this moment, how do I solve this particular issue I found myself in? And that included my taxes. I would go on to see what other people were doing for their taxes. Me and the TurboTax search engine, we were like this until I submitted once and it said, hey, before you submit, we just want to let you know there is a high chance you're going to be audited. How could I be audited? I did everything YouTube said to do. I used the Schedule C instead of the Schedule E, I think. I used the right filing for my incorporation, I think. And I did the partial depreciation, I think. And that warning was really scary. Because number one, I'm just out here hoping I know American tax code well enough not to have all my properties taken. Hoping that I can hold on to this even though I'm likely going to be audited. And then when I finally did get a CPA, not only did she say, no, you for sure were going to get audited. This is wildly incorrect and inconsistent with your prior earnings. You are also paying way too much in taxes. You are not setting this up in a way that maximizes your situation. Some of which is just kind of taking advantage of the tax code as it's written, but some of it is also written specifically because you are going to get hit with it. Depreciation feels good when the property doesn't look like it's falling apart. The structures don't look like they're failing, but the point of depreciation is because they are. Your roof doesn't slowly fail over time. It's good until it's not. And we've depreciated over that 25 years so that you have the money to replace it, not just because it's nice to depreciate. What are you talking about, Deandra? She sat there and I give it to her. I give it to her. I love a professional who's going to try to school their face. But you know, not all of them are the best actors. So she looked through that tax document for the first time and I saw her face kind of twist up and them lips get a little pursed. I knew I had made a mistake trying to save the $400 a year it would have taken to hire her sooner because of all the benefits she was getting me, including not being audited. If you are going to buy these larger properties, I want you to keep them. I don't want you to get in trouble because you didn't file what you needed to file on time or you filed it in the incorrect space. I want you to retain the wealth you are building with these larger apartment complexes, but we cannot do that if your taxes are inconsistent or inaccurate. Hire a CPA to help you with this process. The fourth mistake I made in buying larger multifamily properties was not stepping into my fully evolved persona as a backseat driver. They get a lot of flack. You're just a passenger. You need to sit back and let me drive. No. I'm the same way in Uber. When I get in Uber, not only do I have the Uber map open, I have my own Google Maps open. I don't know if this driver is in cahoots with Uber to drop me somewhere I don't understand. I want to know. I want everybody around me to know, my husband, everyone who has my location. I'm in this Uber, hopefully going where I'm supposed to go. Don't make that turn. I'll sit in traffic. I'm okay. I should have been a more aggressive backseat driver as I scaled with my properties because I needed to know more about what was going on. When I bought my first duplex, when I bought my first motel, I leaned very heavily on the professionals who were already associated with the property, on the handyman who was already there, on the contractor who was already working. And they didn't do what they were supposed to, or at least they didn't do it to my standard. They didn't follow up. I didn't know where the warranties were. Sometimes I didn't even know where the work had been done. And that was because I was trying to sit in this one concept of passive income and let them do the work. But two, I didn't want to be a micromanager. I didn't want to be the boss who was all in everybody's business. I didn't want to be the aggressive Black woman. And so I sat back and I let stuff happen even though I didn't agree with it, even though I didn't understand it, and hoped that it would work out for the best. And you know what it did? Not that. It didn't do that. It did not work out for the best, not even a little bit. Work had to be redone. Other contractors had to come in. And I said, after the second check cleared, we will not have this problem again. And I'm sharing this to stop you from ever having to experience this. Until a contractor has proven to me their value by the work, the quality, the speed, I'm going to be a part of that process, especially knowing I have 10 tenants relying on me to figure this out. I have 20 tenants relying on me to figure this out. I'm not going to leave it to chance. I'm not going to leave it to their reputation or their standard. I am going to be the backseat driver that I was born to be. And I hope you take on that same honor with the position as you scale into these larger buildings. And finally, my last point, and this might be a little controversial. I understand it, especially if you live in them big, expensive cities and you like being a big, expensive person. Every property I buy would be a multifamily, or I would have to accept I need to invest somewhere else. And I am including primary homeowners in that statement. America is changing very rapidly. I'm sure some of you see it in your communities. The way you grew up, the kind of people you grew up around are not the same people who were there. I've mentioned this before, that I grew up in New York City and always knew I would not be able to afford where I grew up. At least not afford it in the way that I would like to in order to have a family. Because my parents could afford it because they bought when nobody wanted it. But now people do. And I was thinking I was going to be a teacher, right? I was thinking I was going to be a vet maybe. I may be maxing out at $85,000 a year. That's not enough to really have a 3-bedroom in New York City. And so I always thought I'd have to leave home. I always believed that I would have to make my base somewhere else. And now I sit here in my mid-30s and I think about my future children. And I think to myself, man, what are they going to do? How are they going to purchase a property in 30 years? Do I want them to again have to leave the community I've raised them in? Or can I buy a multifamily property so that they always have somewhere to stay? When I think about my parents aging and wanting to make sure that I can care for them the way they have cared for me, I think about buying a multifamily property. I think about having a space where I can care for my parents and still give them a sense of independence because of the property I invested in. When I think of friends who need somewhere to stay, when I think of the opportunity to lower my housing expenses with a midterm or a short-term rental, when I think of all of the flexibility I want, that comes with a multifamily property, especially if I want to keep my independence, especially if I want to keep my separation from my tenants. All of that is multifamily. And if I can't afford it in the city I'm in, I gotta go. I was having a conversation this morning about how I'm not that attached to the city I live in. I'm attached to what the city can offer me. And what the city offers me is good schools and nice sidewalks. But more than anything, it offers me a cost of living that my husband and I can comfortably maintain as we expand. If I couldn't get it here, I would move. When my husband graduated last year and he started looking for a job, I said, what is the cost of living in that city? Because you know what you have? Other offers. You know we'll be happy? Other places. But you know where I will suffer? In a city where I can't afford to live. So if I were to go back, my first property would not have been a single family home. It was a single family home because in Charlottesville, Virginia, that's all I could afford. But if I had gone out to Waynesboro then, I could have a 4-unit easily. If I had looked south to Dillwyn and Scottsville, I could have had my 4-unit. If I had gone north to Ruckersville, hell, if I would have gone a little east to Richmond, I could have had a quad. I could have had a quad. And I didn't because I was so attached to the city, being downtown, blah, 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 blah. I would make sure that the properties I was buying were multifamily and comfortably in my budget in a city I could afford. And that's why I wrote this book, so that you could skip all of the mistakes that I made. This is for you to access all of the information that I used to go from a full-time biology teacher to a work optional real estate investor. The pre-order is open now with the link on your screen, and we will add it down below. Hopefully this was helpful. Please let me know if you have any questions, and I will see you in the next video.